Hey everybody, it's Matt Freer from Avid here at Sundance 2020 with yet another awesome film to talk to you about. That film is 4 Good Days. We are joined by director and writer Rodrigo Garcia and editor Lauren Connelly. Rodrigo, please tell us a little bit about your film.
The film is based on an article from the Washington Post that tells the story of a woman and her grown daughter who is an addict, and they're both struggling to keep the daughter clean for 4 days.
Wow. And so, Lauren, how did you become attached to this project?
I worked with Rodrigo a number of years ago on a series called Blue, and he sent me the script, and it was fantastic. So here we are.
And as far as the post-production and the production workflow, what was the overall process that you guys employed?
Quick.
Yeah, very fast. A very fast process, using Avid, obviously.
Please. Of course.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great process. Rodrigo's amazing to work with in the cutting room. He's so collaborative, and the notes are like an editor's dream. They're really, about the feeling and the emotion and the character, and it's a pleasure.
So, Rodrigo, we were talking earlier, you've been coming to Sundance for about 20 years now. What is it about independent cinema that attracts you to this genre?
The possibility of doing what you want to do, subject matter that, first of all, studios don't do this kind of movie anymore. Subject matter that is just, dramas for grown-ups. So I think if you're interested in that, you're kind of condemned to continue working in the independent arena. I call myself an indie-saurus now. Yes.
So this is a question I ask editors a lot, and I've never had a chance to ask a director, so I'm excited about this. And that is when you're working with a director who is also the writer, I ask the editor, is it more challenging in the editorial process when you're killing their babies, you're cutting their words? So, Rodrigo, do you find that when you're working with an editor and they're saying, this is not working, we've got to cut this, is it a little harder when it's stuff you've spent so much time writing?
It's funny because people always say about the words, and I don't think words are the most important part of a movie. I mean, they are obviously the building blocks of some scenes, and there are words that, are very effective. But really, I think the main thing of a movie is its thrust, the engine. And that's what the editing does, is establish something quickly, establish stakes, establish problems, and stay on the bouncing ball. It's not so much about, lines of dialogue. Some, people say kill your babies. Some babies you cannot kill because they are an essential part of the movie. But really it's about how the airplane flies.
So you're talking about how independent cinema, it's really the kind of place where you can tell these stories because studios aren't going to do them anymore. Something that has changed a little bit is television has evolved, and that's becoming a medium where you're seeing more provocative, more challenging content. You've both worked in television. How would you compare working in television to working in cinema?
I actually love both, and I think both have a lot to offer. In television, you get to live with the characters through so many episodes, which is wonderful for audience. And with a movie, you get to live with the material for longer than you often do in network television, which is wonderful in a different way.
And Rodrigo, is that something you would consider a film like this? Maybe not this property, but being able to tell a story over, a number of episodes, does that interest you at all?
Yeah, I think that's what series do well, which is you spend so much time with characters and see how relationships evolved. I think, the main engine of series is relationships, whether it's Game of Thrones or Sopranos. What we're interested in is how people relate to each other and love each other, betray each other, etc. And that, the long haul, the 800-page novel, that's what a series does best. So yeah, I'm interested in all of it, absolutely, as long as it's based on complicated relationships.
So it sounds like it was a pretty accelerated schedule, as often is the case in independent cinema. During editorial, were there certain things about the film that you found more challenging to edit? Certain beats that were hard to find or scenes that you were stuck on?
For me, not really, because Glenn and Mila were just incredible. Their performances were amazing, and Rodrigo directed them perfectly. So it was really nice. We actually cut a lot of stuff out just to keep the pace moving, and everything that got left was also great.
So before we started, we were talking about the importance of audio in production, and that's a question I like to ask editors is on smaller films, a lot of people tend to wear multiple hats. And so sometimes a picture editor will have to do a little more of the visual effects, a little more of the sound. As an editor, Lauren, do you find that you're doing a little more sound design, sound editing than you might normally in another kind of job?
Yeah, I think, more and more to put out a first editor's cut, it really needs to be polished. And to do that, my assistant editor did a lot of temp VFX. We did a whole temp score. We would do a little bit of temp color just when a couple shots didn't match, things like that. So you are having to do a lot of that work, which does get replaced, but it's a lot more in the first part of the process.
And finally, Rodrigo, I'd like to ask, what is it you look for in an editor when you're collaborating? They're your partner in the production. Of course, Lauren. But what are the qualities of a Lauren Connelly that you look for?
It's a lot of stuff. I think a sense of story, a sense of what is, the most important thing in the story. Also, because I'm an old geezer, I depend more and more on editors and assistant editors, and we had Alyssa Carroll, who was very good, on their technical know-how. I'm like all directors, I just want to ask for things, and in this movie in particular, I was astounded how much they could do, in the cutting room. So everything, it's like with, what you want, but most of all, what you want from your editor, from your DP, you want their opinion. You want to listen, and then sometimes you take their opinion, sometimes you don't. I'm sure there's things we have in the movie that Lauren hates, and that's just the way it is. But yes, you're always listening. You're always. It's a dialogue. There's not one thing that one person does in a movie. Directors are influenced by their DP, by their performers. They influence the designer influences me. Thank you. Hey!
Hi, Rodrigo.
What?
It's good to be the director.
Kerry Washington
I love
is
this
also a
man.
very well-known
Whatever
editor.
he's talking about, it's sad that I'm not in his movie, but it's a brilliant movie, and I'm super proud of him and super happy.
Good to see you,
Love
babe.
you. Bye, guys.
Oh.
Well, there you go.
Perfect.
Kerry Washington, she always wanted to be an editor. She had to settle for a... editing is a conversation between two people in a room, and then the producers come in also, and the actors have a say. It's all evolving, It's the conversation, and you want people to do what you want and not to do what you want. You want people to listen to you and not to listen to you. You have to stay fluid. Yeah.
And finally, as Kerry Washington begins her career as an editor, Lauren, what advice would you have for her?
I would say, if you really love this, you should do it. And if you're an aspiring editor, cut everything you can get your hands on. I mean, when I was first starting out, nights, weekends, short films, small videos, doing all of that true independent stuff, when you don't have enough footage, it trains you to really look at footage in a different way. And I think that's what's so special about editing, is you're looking at all these pieces that can come together in so many different ways.
And also, I think, look at movies and look at the story. Editing is storytelling. I remember, sometimes you get young aspiring filmmakers telling you, oh, that's the best cut movie I ever saw. And often it's because it's flashy, it's cutty. Any good movie is well cut. It's just, it may be showy or not. Any movie that works is beautifully cut.
Well, that's some great advice from both of you. By all accounts, it's a fantastic film. The film is 4 Good Days. Rodrigo Garcia, Lauren Connelly, thank you so much for joining us today here.
Kerry Washington.
And Kerry Washington. Kerry, thank you. That's going to do it. That's another story here at Sundance. My name is Matt Fury. Stay tuned to the Avid social channels for more stories just like this.